Hi everyone and welcome to module 6 in this Django REST framework course. We added some token authentication to the app in the last module. Today we're going to extend on that and create some models and serializers and then look at views and URLs and everything else, right? So let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, so welcome to module, what are we on, 6? Can't be on 6 already. Module 6. We've added token auth to our e-commerce app, so now we have the ability to add permissions to classes, to views, or endpoints in this case. So if somebody was to make a request to an endpoint that has a permission class, that person could not retrieve any information or get any information without passing through, in our case, a token. Really good, powerful stuff. Django REST Framework has some built-in permissions and stuff like that that work very, very well with Django's authentication app. So in this case, we're passing the username and a password through, you get a token in response, and then that is how we know you are who you say you are. Obviously, you can't give that token away to random users because that is essentially your username and password. So just handle it with care. Okay, so module 6. Like I've said in previous videos, if you could like and comment this, it would be fantastic. I love the feedback. And also subscribe and click the bell so every time I add a video, you are notified, and it helps me grow the channel. So each module comes with a steps file. We are currently on module 6, right? So let's have a little look, see what's going on. You can climb down module 6, or if you're following along, you should have everything where you need to have it. This is what your configuration of files and everything else should look like. Pause it, have a look, double check. If it's wrong, clone down from module 6 from the GitHub repository. Okay, so that was a quick intro. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. So let's expand on what we have already, which is we've got a new app called e-commerce. This time we will use enforced token authentication. This means only authenticated users can make calls to the endpoints. Okay, so we're not going to add that to contacts. That'd be a little bit daft if we were to add authentication to a contact endpoint. Only authenticated users could then use it. So we want to have random users or unauthenticated users to use it. So we'll add this to our e-commerce app. So we will build an e-commerce app with an item and order endpoint. Users will be able to retrieve items in a database, place the order, and retrieve order information. First thing we do, build a model. Remember, a model is a database table, or that's what the database schema will look like. So when we call make migrations, that's what we're looking like. So what we're in back end, we want to go in e-commerce, we want to go in models, Control A, Control V. What are we doing? Again, always bringing models from Django DB. We're bringing in Django's built-in user model. So we haven't used an abstract or the abstract user, which allows us to extend that, in which case you'd access it in a slightly different way. We are just using the straight out the box user table. So that's why we're importing it. We're also bringing in the model import from abstract. So this is a UUID field and a whole bunch of extensions, right? So at this time we're using title slug description, which gives us a title, a slug field, and a description field. Okay, which is all good. And then we're bringing in model, which is a UUID. So this item model will have an ID, UUID. Okay, so what are we doing? We've got a meta class. So we've got a verbosity name plural. So items. And we've got ordering. So this way you can order. So we want to, you could have created. We've got ID there, but I think with that's what, do you know, in a previous module we're having problems with created. I think it's because we didn't actually have the right inheritance on there. Doesn't matter anyway. So we're ordering by ID. You can order that by any way you like, you know, created, activated date. Done the string method. So this is the representation of what it would look like. And we're calling it self-title. Now we've got title because we're passing through this one here. Then we've got stock, price, both integer fields. Default 1 for stock, so we've always got 1 stock, and price is default 0, but we'll be passing through. So if it's 15 quid, this is pounds and pennies, or dollars and cents. So it'll be 100 would be 100 cents, $1, or 100 pence, £1. Amount, so it converts the price into real money. Manage stock method. So these little methods. So rather than just reading from the screen, what I'm trying to do is I've got all the logic for this app. in the models, which is the right place for it. So heavy models, light views. Okay, so we're creating models for items and orders. Now, when we're serializing data, one of the things that we can add to a serializer is validation. So where we're validating data types, so if it's an email field, making sure it's an email, what we can also do is call a validate method or extend validate method, because we're inheriting from serializers. Now we can validate more than just data sets. We can validate what the data is that's being sent to us, for instance. So for instance, if a user is sending through their country is GB, yet the API is only allowing us to look for stuff in the US, we can say GB is not allowed, right? Okay, which is kind of far above and beyond what Django REST framework would do straight out of the box. So you need to write a validator to process that type of validation, okay? And we will be doing something like that. The example in here is we'll be checking that we have stock. So if I place an order for a baseball cap of 10, I want 10 baseball caps. Now if the stock is only 8, that order can't be processed. We need to respond back to that user and say, on inspection of your order, there is not enough stock. Okay, and that's the validation we're going to build. So that's what these methods are doing. Okay, so this is my way of checking the stock. Okay, so manage stock. So if there is enough stock, when you place another thing, when you place an order, you want the stock level to drop. Okay, so if there's 10 and I order 6, I then want the stock to be 4 for the next user. Check stock, is there enough stock? True or false? Place the order. If there is enough stock, place the order. And what happens when you place the order? You reduce stock. So that's what these methods are doing. This isn't a Python Django course. These are methods that I'm using that I will be subsequently calling in serializer. It's important you know what they're doing, okay? You can see it, they're placing the order. So if self-check stock, so if that comes back as true, there's enough stock, you place the order. So we create an order and then we manage stock. So we pass through the quantity, manage stock method reduces the stock level and saves that to the database. The new stock for the item will be 4 instead of 10. Order class. So this is our order model. Again, we've got meta and we've got the user. So this is a foreign key. So this is the order being placed for Bobby, not Billy. Foreign key for the item, so the item that's being placed, and the quantity of the actual order itself. And the representation of this will be the username, and because we know we'll have a username because we have to pass it through, and then item title. Okay, so these are the models. Good. We then want serializers. So let's go ahead and dump this. I think once we've done serializers, that's the end of this module. There or thereabouts. We're gonna register it, make the migrations, and then that's it. So I'll spend a bit of time looking at this. Add a new file called serializers. I'm rubbish at spelling and typing, which is a great combination when you're a developer. Okay, this is all in the instructions, right? So like it says here, create a new file in e-commerce called serializers and use the following code. Okay, what we're doing, we're bringing in ordered dict from collections, which is a Python package. From models, bringing in item and order. They're the two models that we just created. Bringing in serializers from REST framework, status from REST framework, and exceptions. Now I would normally drop that in an exceptions file in my project, but that's stopping a step. So we're creating an exception here called not enough stock exception. Now we will call that if this method returns false. So during the serialization of the data, if that returns false, we'll be returning this as a response. That's what we're doing. Item serializer, nice and easy. Passing, this is a model serializer because it's directly linked to a model. So we're inheriting model serializer. Meta, we're passing through the model itself, and then the fields that we're passing through is title, stock, and price. Okay, if you don't pass through, we'll be using view sets. If we don't pass through a PK, a primary key, which in this case is a UID, you'll retrieve all the items in the database. Okay, based on pagination, if you have pagination set up. If you pass through a primary key, it will look for the primary key and retrieve one instance. That's what's working here. That's why we don't need any fields, right? So this is a very powerful serializer. Very few lines of code, a lot going on, okay? This one, however, is slightly different. This is an order serializer. Again, this is directly linked to a model, so it's a model serializer. Passing through order, and all we're passing back in the data will be item and the quantity, okay? Item primary, okay, right. So what we've got here, the item, the reason we've got item here is because it's a related field. So this is a primary key related field, okay? So it's linked to the item here by its primary key. That's how we're linking the two. Because if you remember in the model, we've got a foreign key by item, okay? Good. Then we've got validation, okay? We might do a deep dive on that in a second. Validation, okay, so the validation in this case, so this is what's being called, when we validate data, this is what's being called when the information's coming in, okay? So if the information coming in, we'll check the data types, you know, make sure we've got integers, booleans, dictionaries, lists, whatever the case may be. This is where it's being checked. But also on top of what's being checked from data types, we also want to validate whether or not there's enough stock. So we're passing through the response is an order dict, right? So this is an order dictionary that's being passed. We are getting the item and the quantity from the order dict. And then we're saying, look, check the stock. If there's no, so if not, so if false, if check stock quantity equals false, we raise an exception. Else, just return a response. Happy days. That's what we're doing. It's very, very simple. It's very easy. So you try to do this, you know, try to get everything done as simple as possible. Good. Now we want to do is we want to make migrations. So actually, no, we want to add them into the admin file. Again, this is a Django thing. This means that if we visit admin and sign in, we have access to the admin page. And we're just registering the item and the order models. That's not really DRF, so let's skip through that. Now we want to migrate the data tables. Okay, so we're in API, CLI, there we go. Python manage.py. We will need to make migrations this time. And Python manage.py and migrate. See that? Where it says create model item, create model order. That's what it's doing, it's creating tables in the database. And we want to migrate those over to the database. Brilliant. Done. That is finished. What are we on? We're on at 12 minutes. So I'm not going to start building out the views and the routers and stuff because we'll do that in the next module. But what we've done, we're creating the kind of starting from the ground up. You don't start with a URL. That's the last thing you do, right? So we start with a model, so it's somewhere to store the information. Then we need something to handle the validation of information. Then we need a view to be pointed towards and a URL to point at the view. That's the order we do it. Okay, so we've done that bit. That's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and comment, subscribe, click the bell. But no, I really appreciate it. There's 2 more modules to go and then we're wrapping things up. So we're going to do some views and some URLs, some tests, and then over to you to continue learning about DRF. So thanks for watching. See you in the next module. Bye-bye.